everybody. This is Tony Cannuli, the host of the Slight Edge Zone, the marketing director, and the co-host of Conversations with a Legend with my good friend Larry Thompson, the legend. And I got to tell you, the last 60 days have been amazing. I've had so much great feedback from the shows that we have done, the shows that we have started. For those of you that are tuning in that are not aware of who Larry Thompson is, I know that every now and then we run into it. He's been in the network marketing profession now for over 45 years, but not just is he a seasoned veteran in the profession. He started in the profession in the first generation when the founding fathers of this amazing profession started. He was there. He's been there through 4 major generations of the profession. He is a co-founder of a company that everybody in the profession knows about, a company called Herbalife. He also was considered from the Wall Street Journal to be the architect of wealth building. I mean, imagine that. That's an amazing statement to make about somebody, but the architect of wealth building. Now, why do they say that? Well, he's created many, many millionaires in the profession. But not only that, he has helped those millionaires create more millionaires in 3 and 4 and 5 and even 6 generations of people in our profession have become millionaires as a result of him. He's one of a handful of what we call key influences in the profession. He has learned so much, knows so much. He's run companies, consulted for companies, built massive organizations, done billions of dollars in the profession. I mean, you name it, he's done it. And he's been sharing with our amazing listener base here at the Home Business Radio Network some great stuff. And, of course, the last show we talked about concepts and techniques. And, earlier today, you guys are in for a special treat because we were on kind of a pre-call ahead of knowing we were going to be doing the show today, and we kind of got into it. And the reason Conversations with a Legend came about was because Larry and I would have all these amazing conversations, and one day we said, imagine if people could be a fly on the wall and listen to what comes out of these conversations. It's magical. And that's how Conversations with a Legend was born. Well, we were doing the pre-show talk, and after a while, I looked out and I realized that the recording was going. So today we've got the real conversation. It was totally unedited, totally unplugged. Larry Thompson unplugged. And you guys are in for a special treat.
Tony, as I say, I don't understand. We were talking about the concepts and techniques, and to me, I don't understand why people have difficulties with that. And so when I was excited about the positive responses that we got. But I think that we need to clarify that a little bit more on this next show. What do you think, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny because I thought about this a lot in the last week, and I realized that showing people really what a concept is, what a technique is, and giving them examples that they can relate to. And you're such a great storyteller, Larry. And you really put things. It's like the Arnold concept that we talked about. Let
me ask you this, man. First of all, how's my headset? I got a new headset, and I'm uncomfortable with it. Is it okay?
Oh, you're great.
Okay. All right. Now, refresh me on the last show that we did. You know what I mean? That was 4 or 5 weeks ago, and anyway, get me refreshed. Tell me exactly what we did there. Get me back clear here so we can pick up from there.
Well, the key things that I got, because I've got a lot of response, Larry, from amazing people, the master distributor for Java, Javita Coffee, and the master distributor for Cannuli, Robert Hollis, and these are all guys that have been impacted by your teachings on, from the teachings of the people that you teach, like Jeff Roberti, for instance, is a good example. John came out of NSA. And the reality is the 80, 15, and the 80, 15, and 5 that you were talking about.
Okay, that's okay. All right.
They all keyed in on that. They loved it.
Okay, all right. So I got to cover that again and get that clear, because to me, the 80, 15, and the 5 is the key to the concepts and the techniques. Did we talk about the insanity program, the workout program on that last show?
You talked about Arnold, and you talked a little bit. I know, we're going to be talking.
Okay, all right.
And all, but not really, not so much in detail.
Okay, I had a conversation with Jeff Roberti and Jeff Weisberg when I was down in Siesta Keys just a few weeks ago. Okay, and we were talking about this. We're setting out in the Gulf of Mexico there at Siesta Keys, and the next thing I know, we've got 2 hours down, and we were just talking about all of this stuff. And but the reality is that most people don't understand the 80, 15, and the 5 concept, and it is a concept. Now, concepts and techniques, as we know, are two different things. And I don't know how to explain it other than to tell it and see who gets what, and who doesn't. That's the only thing I know how to do. But when a concept is general about what you want to have the majority of your people lay hold to. A technique is specific. Okay? A technique is where you go, what you do, what you say. Now, if we're to go out there and we're to talk, you talk about all these master distributors and, the companies, I work with so many different companies. If we were to go out there, and I guarantee you, almost 99% of the distributors in the field, the master distributors, the top people, the company owners, almost 99% of them they want to have something that they can give their people exactly where to go, exactly what to do, and exactly what to say. That's what they're all looking for, especially the field. The field, if you're a truck driver, a school teacher, or something like that, or construction worker, whatever it may be, they say, just tell me where to go, what to do, and what to say. And we fall into the trap of doing that. The problem with that, listen, we became masters of this with Herbalife, of teaching concepts and techniques and building on that solid foundation. So I don't know, except we'll figure out a way during the show to get it across. But I'm talking to you here. If you have a concept, okay, generally, I'll use the insanity. I asked you about the insanity. It's coming back to me. I believe in working out, as you well know. I work out 4 to 5 times a week, and I work out pretty intensely, and I'm excited about the results that I have in my life. There was a time period, I will tell you right now, in July 4th, 1995. I remember it as clear as a bell because I'd worked out throughout my life. In July 4th, 1995, I was having a big distributor function up at my ranch, and I had a full-blown gym there in my house, and I decided I'd go down and get a little pumped up, come out, in the tank top and all that, look as good as I possibly could before as I coming out. And I'm in there working out. And I don't know what happened to me, Tony. I got no idea. But right there, I said, that's it. I'm not working out anymore. After always working out, I said, I'm not going to work out. It was July 4th, 1995, and that was it. And I stopped working out, okay, from 1995, okay, to about 2 years ago. Now, I know that sounds crazy. I just completely stopped working out. And I went back into working out, so I'm a believer in working out, and I feel so much better on it. I'm trying to get to this point I'm trying to make. And I believe that people should work out. Okay, the older they get, I think they should work out. So let's just say I got 100 friends. Okay, I'm going to try and define this in my own mind, and you jump in here anywhere you want, because I'm going to try and communicate this on the show. But let's say I got 100 friends, and I want them to work out. Okay? Now, 80, 15, and 5 is something that I learned back from Bobby Depew, what I call the architect in network marketing. And I got my stuff, as you well know, from him on the strategy and tactics. I got the philosophy from Jim Rohn. But if you take a concept, okay, you've got to remember that concepts and techniques are so different, and if you try to get someone to go do and say what you go do and say, the best result you're going to have is about 80, 15, and 5. 80% of your distributor base will do just a little bit, okay? Now, we sometimes, and most of the time, get frustrated with that. Well, that's crazy. That's the foundation. Gee, let me jump on that. Let me rephrase that. 80% of the distributor base will be happy working with you on your team if they're earning $250 a week, $1,000 a month. Well, that's just general terms.
Right.
Okay. Now, 15% will be happy working with you if they're making $25,000, $30,000 a year part-time. 5% are going to be $25,000, $30,000 a month, $25,000, $30,000 a week deal. When you give someone a technique of here to go, what to do, and what to say, they will all try it, but they can't all do it, not because it's difficult, but because of what we need to talk about on this show, this next show here, is the desire, willingness, and teachability, okay? Bobby taught me that if it works for one person, it'll work for all persons based on their desire, willingness, and teachability. It may not work to the same degree, but we all don't have the same degree of desire. We all don't have the same degree of willingness to work. And we don't have the same degree of being teachable. We just don't have it. So when you're going to be working with people, and you have to understand that the desire, willingness, and teachability has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with education. It has nothing to do with life experience. It's all different. We all have different desire, willingness, and teachability in different things. I'm trying to get this point about this workout deal. Let me take a shot at it this way. If I wanted 100 of my friends to work out, okay, I could go to them with my workout program and say, this is what you need, go do and say. That's a technique.
Yep.
Okay? And I guarantee you they're not going to do it. Now I got another one for you. We've all seen this insanity workout program on TV. A lot of my friends do it. A lot of my family members do it. Okay? I ain't going to do it. I'm just telling you flat out, I'm not going to do insanity. We'll never do insanity. It ain't something I'm going to do, ever going to make happen in my life. It isn't that I'm not teachable, because that thing isn't hard to learn. It's that I don't have the desire and the willingness to do that. Okay? We talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger in the last time, and I've referred to him as Arnold. Everybody understands Arnold's body. Okay? Now, there's only so many things you have to do to get a body like that. The variable is and I'll never have Arnold's body. Again, not that I don't have the teachability. I don't have the desire or the willingness to do it. So if I had 100 of my friends that I wanted to work out, if I took them a technique called insanity and say, this is what you need to do, 80% of them would yes, dear me, okay, and say they were going to try it and do nothing. Okay, probably very low. 15% of them would try it somewhat, okay, and 5% of them would probably do it. Now, what is my goal? Getting them to do insanity, or is my goal getting the 100 people to do something to work out, to feel good about themselves, to feel good about their participation, even if it's going to the gym once a day, once a week, okay, even if it's doing some workout program at home. What is my goal? To get 100% of the people to do insanity, which will never happen, okay? Or is my goal to get 100% of my people to do something and feel better about themselves, feel better about what the results that they're achieving in their life? And if that's the case, I can't take a technique to them, because they can't go there, do that, and say that, and using the sales terminology. But, and the same thing using the workout. They won't go there, do that, and say that. Does this make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I hate to jump in on this because it's so fascinating, but you're hitting on something that it's bothered me for a long time in the profession, and it's people that, someone gets in and they think everybody wants to make $100,000 a month, and that's all I talk to them about. And they teach them things that $100,000 a month income earners do, or 5%ers do, and that person can't even relate to that number, and they blow them out of the business. When in the reality that the 80%er is the biggest part of your organization, always has, always will be. And this is an area that really ticks me off in the profession. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
The profession always gets it wrong. You know what I mean? They always get it wrong. You got to realize that one of our key factors in Herbalife, building that dynasty the way that we did it, is that we identified that 80, 15, and 5 group early on. We identified. I came out of concepts and techniques because of Bobby Depew, like the original architect, okay? And he and I were great, great friends and worked together and forever, okay? And Jim Rohn, you got to realize, Jim Rohn and I started in the company I started with as a long-haired hippie construction worker back in the 60s, the same day, the same company. And I got influenced by Bobby, and I got influenced by Jim Rohn, and I was able, listen, in the 60s I was able to travel around with those guys and do training classes with them. And so it was there's no way I would be accomplished and done and influenced without that kind of background and that kind of foundation. But Bobby said concepts are constant. They're always the same. Techniques will come and go. For example, and I don't know how much time we should spend on this in this next show. I don't know, but
I think this is critically important.
Well, I just wish I was better at articulate. Maybe by the time we get through here, I'll come up with how to present this. Okay, if concepts are constant and techniques vary, if a technique is where to go, what to do, and what to say, let's come back to what we, and I always hear this thing, old school, new school. There's no such thing as old school, new school, unless you're dealing in techniques. If you're dealing in concepts, it's school. That's all it is.
Yeah.
In technique, of where to go, what to do, and what to say, we used to have to do it by business card flyers and ads and wearing buttons and stuff like that. That's the technique. Now, today we come into Facebook and we come into Twitter and we come into Internet and we come into all of these different things, and we think that's the answer. Okay? The answer is just getting people, all you're after, Tony, is you're after getting, you got 100 people out there that you want to get involved in working out in this picture I'm trying to draw. If you've got 100 people you're trying to get to do something, okay, and you want to be able to get them, you want them first to get them involved, okay? If I wanted 100 of my friends to work out, I want them to get involved, okay? Then the second thing I want them to do is get engaged. And then the third thing I want them to do is get active. Now, activity is the technique. And you have to understand, if I can get them involved and engaged in the concept, then that everybody works the same. The involvement and engagement for the 80, the 15, and the 5 is identical. Okay? The variable, Tony, the variable is the activity level. And if the guy that does the 15%er does more of the same engagement and the same involvement. The 5%er does more of it. But if I can keep, now I'm going to come to the distributor base. If I can keep 80% of my distributors, the guys that sign up, that get on my product, okay, I don't want those guys, you used the term 100,000 a month. I don't even want them to make 10,000 a month. I want to keep them engaged. So you know what we did in Herbalife? We came up with a very simple thing. It was called use, wear, talk. If you use the products every single day, okay, that's the one key. The second thing is wear your button every day. Now, the button is just to get some activity, engagement going out there. And the third thing, use, wear, talk. If I can get them using my products every day, I got them engaged, okay? Well, you can't have anything better if you're a distributor than keep your people engaged. Now, if I can get them to wear their button, okay, I got them involved if I get them to use my product. If I can get them to wear my button, I got them engaged, okay? And if I can get them to talk to people, I got them in activity. And you know what we used to say there? And it's still true today. $5 billion a year sales is still true today. You know, I ran into these girls at this Mexican restaurant Taylor and I did here a couple of months ago, and they're wearing their buttons, man. Lose weight now, ask me how. I had to go talk to them, man. I was so proud of them. We'll cover that in a different thing. But those girls were involved. They were engaged. They were in activity. I know I'm jumping around here, but stay with me, man. We'll get this fixed and refined for the show. So if we said use, wear, talk, use got them involved, and wearing got them engaged. Okay, talking got them activity. And here's what we said. If that's all you ever do, now I'm talking to the 80, the 15, and the 5. I know 80% are going to settle down at $250,000 a month, $250 a week, 1,000 a month. I know the 15% has settled down at somewhere around $25, $30 a year. And I know the 5% has settled around about $25, $30,000 a month, week. I know that. But I got them all doing the same thing conceptually. Okay? Using, wearing, talking. Because if I can keep them doing that, I got my workforce constantly involved, constantly engaged, and constantly in activity. Now, the difference between the 80 and the 15 is the activity amount, not the difference. Whatever they did, if they're using the products and wearing the button isn't any different than doing Facebook. It's a method of contacting someone or having them contact you, you know, saying, okay, attraction marketing, whatever the words that they use out there today. What difference does it make? I'm trying to get someone to talk to, okay? So using the products, okay, every day is involved. Wearing the button is engaged, and talking to people is activity. So if I can get my distributor base, old school, new school, what difference does it make? If I can get them engaged, involved, and active, and understand that the activity level is the same for all three groups. The difference between the 80% and the 15% is how much they're active. Where my 80% group might get a sponsor someone every 2 or 3 months, okay, and they might get 2 or 3 customers a month. Where my 15% group will sponsor someone every week, or my percent group, okay, they'll go out there and they'll sponsor someone every hour. You see what I mean? The difference is the activity level. If I can get them doing the same thing conceptually and not make the issue them trying to repeat me and do what I do, because you know what? Just like I could have Arnold's body, I'm teachable for that. But I can't have Arnold's body because I don't have the desire or willingness to do it. And we think that everybody on our team has the same desire, willingness, and teachability, and they don't. They don't. They are happy just being involved as long as you make that 80% team total, that 80% group, not the team, that 80% group. If they feel validated and if they feel important, and I got to tell you, with Herbalife, they were the stars as far as I was concerned. I mean, I ballyhooed the big money earners, but I made it clear that the only reason those guys made that money was because they had people using, wearing, talking every day that were making $1,000 a month and were able to, and they were important, and they were the backbone. And I want you to think about something. I don't know if we talked about it before, and you're going to have to tell me if you think we should talk about it this time. But $1,000 a month is a huge amount of money today. That's $250 a week, and we have a tendency to talk down to that. That's where the army is. That's where the fishing pool is. That's where everybody is, because you've got the single mom, the stay-at-home mom versus mom care versus daycare at $250 a week, $1,000 a month. You got the corporate executive that's been downsized. He's just losing all his confidence. And it's a difference between $1,000 a month, keep an Escalade in the garage. He didn't have to give that up. Now, I'm not trying to be materialistic here, but a guy, you start chipping away at his confidence level. You start chipping away at his self-respect. It just has a devastating effect. So if you can keep that Escalade in his garage, that's what that'll do. And there's a lot of people. $250 a week, $1,000 a month is something that. Golly, I mean, these college students got 27% unemployment rate, okay, these graduates. And that's the difference between them starting somewhere instead of going up there and putting their feet up on the desk. The senior citizen today that's concerned about their prescription. So that profile is huge, and that's the foundation. Am I under?
No, it's incredible because what you see, you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, conversations, in your mentorship with myself over the last, even just in the last 12 months about companies, and very few of them even understand this to any level. They're all trying to give them the same message, and I see this in top distributors as well, Larry, where they're just trying to cram, like I said, $100,000 a month or $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, and that's all wonderful. There are people that want to be able to make that kind of money. There are people that have the desire, that have the willingness to work. There are teachable, no question about that. But they're forgetting the key component, that this is mainly a part-time business, that this is a business where people came out of a system where you get a job, you work for so many years, you get your good education, and eventually you get a dead turkey, a watch, and someone takes care of you in the retirement.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to cram $100,000 a month.
Here's the deal, okay? Here's the deal. If you try and get someone to even $100,000 a month, it's just off the charts for most people today. You may talk to network marketers about that and get their attention, but I guarantee you the majority of network marketers don't believe that they can do it. They think the person that is doing it got lucky. That's what they think. Okay, and they think one day maybe their ship can come in and they can be at the right place at the right time, and they go talk all that story, but they don't really believe that they can do it. Okay, because they've never had. Let's look at the history. They haven't done it because they've been that few degrees off that I talk about. Let's just talk about $10,000 a month. If you even talk, and again, I'm for money. I'm pitching money, and I'm for pitching big money, but about packaging it properly and not running off the 80 and the 15. If there's 80% satisfied with 1,000 a month, I want to know how to track that market with language. I want to know how to track that market with methodology. I want to know how to track that market with attitude. I want to know how to track that with encouragement and motivation and respect. I need to know how to do that. And if I know how to do that, and I'm never going to know how to do that if I don't understand the importance of that. So if I got that going for me, and I got that, then I tell you what, if I start talking 10,000 a month, and there may be plenty of people out there, take the corporate executive. He needs an extra 10,000 a month. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's got his fingertips on the edge of the pool, and the water is coming up to his neck and getting almost into his mouth and starting to cover his nose because he's absolutely labored with life's daily struggle, with his family, with his kids, with his job, with everything around him. He's got his fingertips like this hanging on. And you start talking to him about 10,000 a month, he may want it, he may need it, but he also knows that he's going to have to make some changes in what he's doing. And he can't understand how to put one more weight on his shoulders to go do that. And as much as he may be capable, as much as he wants to desire, he can't figure out how to get out of this dilemma that he's in of taking on more responsibility. And he'll move on. He may join your company. He may buy your package. He may come to your training class. But he understands he's got to do more than he's capable of doing right now. And if he feels comfortable using wearing talking, using that as the illustration, if he feels comfortable doing that and feels empowered that he's somebody important because he's making 1,000 months and keeping escalating in the garage, or the mom care versus daycare, if they feel special about that, they will always stay involved. They will then move to some form of engagement and some limitations of activity. And that's the key. That's the key. Use, where, talk, incorporate. That's the concept of attracting these people. And because listen, if a guy's got the desire, willingness, and teachability, okay, and we all have different, everybody's got high desire in something. It may be that person, that stay-at-home mom that you just sponsored, somebody just sponsored, that can't seem to get out of her own way as far as getting customers and as far as getting distributors or having a party or any of that stuff, and you know she's got the capabilities. But let me tell you something. You say, well, she doesn't have the desire, the willingness, and teachability. She probably doesn't, but she has desire and willingness and teachability in a area or multiple areas of her life. It may be the single mom. It may be the best housekeeper, the best wife. It may be the best friend. It may be the best choir singer, whatever it may be. Everybody has excelled. Everybody, the 80-15, every person in the 80-15 and 5 has excelled in some area of their life with desire, willingness, and teachability. We just find them now where whatever desire they have, willingness to work, and teachability they have now, okay, just it's going to coincide somewhere with that 1,000, that 25,000, and that $30,000, that kind of thing. Because if they have the desire, the willingness to teach, we understand the concept, okay, and then the person has the desire, willingness, and teachability to be somewhere 80-15 and 5, and that's a concept. That's not a specific, that's a general concept to work with. Then you know what the variable is? Okay? It comes down to what I call the four selves. Okay? And I think that's a good place either to get to in this show or to get on the next show. The four selves. I call it self-responsibility, number 1. Number 2, self-determination. Number 3, self-motivation and self-functioning. Now, I am a very responsible person, okay? You're a very responsible person. But you know what? I don't have enough self-responsibility to build Arnold's body. I don't have it, okay? I don't have it, okay? It's not me. I'm not that responsible. It takes a certain responsibility to do that. I don't have the determination to do it, okay, I don't have the motivation to do it, so consequently I'm not as self-functioning. Everybody has got to take on the self-responsibility mode for their involvement, their engagement, and their activity. The variable is their desire, their willingness, and their teachability. If they have self-responsibility with desire, willingness, and teachability, then it's up to them. It's not up to me as the sponsor. It's not up to the company. I never do something for my people, my team, that they can do themselves. If they're going to ask me a question, and the answer to that is on the web page in this particular area, I'm going to say, great question. Here's where you go find the answer.
That's good.
Go get the answer over there, and then come back and talk to me about it. I am not going to take the responsibility to do it for them. That's their responsibility. They've got to have their own determination to make it happen, okay? And they've got to have their own motivation. You know, they can go, listen, I've been referred to as a motivational speaker and trainer and all that stuff, and I accept that, but that's not what I am. I get people to think, okay? And if I get people to think, and I get people to see that where they are and where they might want to go, and I get them to be proud of themselves for whatever activity they're taking on, whatever involvement, whatever engagement, whatever activity they're doing, it's good enough because that's the desire, willingness, and teachability that they have for it. Now, if that's, they now got to take self-responsibility for that. And they have to take self-determination to make that happen, and they have to take self-motivation to make that happen. You know, we want to get them on a webinar, or we want to get them on a training class, we want to get them to see this guru and that guru. Fine, they'll get motivated, and you know what? That motivation will last about, it's almost like you can get a nice warm feeling out of anything. It's like taking a hot bath. You'll get a nice warm feeling out of that. It doesn't last very long. The only thing that lasts is when you're assuming self-responsibility, determination. That will give you the motivation, and that will make you self-functioning. And we want to be responsible for our people. Well, you know, how's that working out in America today when we want to be responsible for everybody? Okay, we can't do it. Okay, we've got a weak generation, last 2 generations on our hand, trying to they can't be hurt. They got to be Oprah. Everything's got to be Oprah. Everything's got to be Dr. Phil. Everything's got to be politically correct. They need to get off their knees and go to work. They need to get some hair on their chest for the responsibility that they have for their desire, their willingness, and teachability. So I don't know.
This is going to be a hot show.
I apologize, man. I just came off of a tour here in Europe and the Middle East, and another one, and I'm fired up. So maybe this is too strong. I got no idea.
No, it's critical information. But you know, talking about concepts and techniques, the concept that you always taught is, you know, seek first to understand where somebody's at, then to be understood. Is that I think distributors and company owners need to realize that you need to figure out where somebody is. You need to figure out the four selves. You need to figure out where someone's desire is, what they're willing to do, and then work with them within that. I think that's kind of part of the message here. Is that, like you said, you don't cram 5%. You know, you don't tell a 80%er that this is what the 5%er does and make them feel bad if they don't do it, because that's the quickest way to what? Losing them. You know, they don't hang out around the flagpole, as you've said many, many times. And so this is amazing information. I appreciate the fire and passion that you're putting behind this, Larry, because you're absolutely...
Let me interrupt here for a minute, Tony. Let me interrupt because, see, I have a different perspective on what you just said. Okay, that I got to find out what their desire is and their willingness to work and their teachability and work with them on their level. No, I don't. That's their job. My job is to set up the concept that they can get involved, engaged, and create some form of activity level. It's up to them after that to take on the self-responsibility. I don't have to identify that for them. I don't have to do that. If I set up my daily method of operation using wearing talking, for example, if I set that up, if I got that going, and I know that it's desire, willingness, and teachability, I don't have to find out. Let's go back to Arnold in the gym and insanity program. I don't have to find out what their desire, their willingness, and teachability is. This is why you need to work out. This is how you get involved. This is how I engage, and this is how you get an activity working out. Now, they got to take the self-responsibility. I don't have to sit around and say, well, let's talk over at Starbucks, and let's meet tomorrow night with your husband and your wife, and my wife and I will come over, and we'll help you determine your desire, your willingness, and teachability, and we will work with you accordingly. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. That means that you are more special than they are. That means that it takes not only desire, willingness, and teachability, and the involved, engaged in activity. You got that, and you got the desire. Now they got to have your personality. They got to do what you're doing with them. That with your new person, the new person has to do that with their people. And I got to tell you, 80% will never do it. 15% will do some of it. The 5%ers might. So I have a different perspective. I don't have to identify anything. What I got to do is set up and work off of concepts. What I got to do is think about how I'm going to get someone involved, engaged in an activity that works for 80, 15, and 5. The only difference is based on their desires, willingness, and teachability, they do more activity. There's no difference between an 80%er reaching out on Facebook or Twitter or some of these social networking sites and involving and maybe recruiting someone every 2 or 3 months and maybe getting 1 or 2 or 3 customers a month. There's no difference between that than the 15% are reaching out to more people like that and being able to do it maybe a couple of 3 or 4 distributors a month and customers, and the 5%er. There's no difference. I don't have to identify anything different. But what I do have to do is say, I don't care what you do. As long as you stay involved, engaged, and active, which is use where talk, using that as the illustration, here's what's going to happen, okay? In the next couple of years, you'll probably end up, no matter what, making $25,000, $30,000 a year part-time. And if you really get busy building a team, you might make $25,000, $30,000 a month. Now, think about this. Their job is to get involved using my products. Their job is to get engaged using the use, where, talk, where, and the button. That could be contacting people on the internet, whatever, and getting in activity, doing more of it, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's all I do, in the next couple years, I might end up at $25,000, $30,000 a year part-time, and if I really build a team, I could end up to $25,000, $30,000 a month. Now, if I can get my people focused on that, 80% of my people focused on that, 15% of my people focused on that, 5% of my people focused on that, and the only variable being the activity level, not what I do, not how many books I buy, not how many seminars I attend, not how many corporate events I go to, and I'm not against those things. I'm saying something completely different. Anyway, maybe we ought to just do this show and see what happens.
Well, I think what you're saying basically is that when you put the system in place, and I want to make sure I understand this properly. When you put that system in place, people, you're leaving it up to them to. You're looking for the people that are willing to work harder, that are willing to do more, that are willing to do more of the activity. You're looking for them. You're not necessarily. You just let them kind of rise. Is the old term about the cream rising. If you put the right system in place, Larry, have you found that that's how it works?
Well, I'm not really looking for them at all. What I am is letting them identify themselves. They'll identify themselves by one word. What's it called? If it's involved, engaged, and what's the last one? Activity. They will identify themselves as activity. Some people never get in that 80% group because there's no activity. Okay? The 80%ers will get going there, and the next thing you know, because of their activity level, they have identified themselves as a 15%er. And then by activity level, they have identified themselves as a 5%er because the activity level is a variable in the income. And not the concept, and the technique is the concept in that particular instance. And so they identify themselves.
It's just a natural sifting process.
Yeah, yeah. And they're all good people to me. I don't care. I like them all the same. I don't put any more emphasis on a guy making the $25,000 a week as I do the $25,000 a month or the $25,000 a year. What's the difference? There is no difference in his talent. Well, if it's about his talent and they think it's his or her talent and his or her personality is the reason that they got that money, then the only way my team's going to get that money is to have that same talent and have that same personality, that same charisma. And that isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen. So it isn't my talent. It isn't my wonderful training class that in my PowerPoint presentation, and I have the most well-trained people in the world. That's ridiculous. People have different desire, willingness, and teachability. You got to set your system up, but it's your special training and your special PowerPoint and your special webinar. The only way that they can make the money you want in their mind is they got to do it the way you do it. 80% of them won't, 15% won't. I don't know if it's making any sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
All I know is this is what has built the Herbalife dynasty, along with 4 or 5 other key points. There's only half a dozen things, man. There's only half a dozen. This is what builds it. And here's what's interesting, Tony. Here's what's interesting. You can make a lot of money in this industry and not have any of these down. You can make a lot of money in this and have one of them down to some degree, okay? To some degree. You can build a big company without understanding any of the stuff that we built Herbalife with. You can have 1 or 2 of them and build a great company. But you'll never build an Amway. Okay, you'll never build an Herbalife, a Mary Kay type of concept that does that. You'll never build it that goes through all those adversities, because this 80, 15, and 5 develops up the farm team, man, and that's what we got to talk about in one of these shows, that farm team of leadership, because you farm, you harvest from that 80%, and you get them to want to do more, not do more, to want to do more activity. They move into the 15, and now they go into the 5. To me, that's like baseball. You don't start off being a New York Yankee. You start off at 18 ball, AA or AAA, then you go to put on the New York Yankee uniform. And everybody that puts on the New York Yankee uniform is not equal, okay? I'm telling you, there's only 4 or 5 stars on the New York Yankees or the Texas Rangers or whatever your team may be. There's only 4 or 5 stars. The rest of them are supplemental players, even wearing the Yankee uniform. And if we make the deal about that special shortstop or that unbelievable pitcher, there's only a few people who will ever have that kind of talent. What we got to do is teach fundamentals at 18. And those 18 members learning fundamentals are involved, engaged in activity. They can move up to AA and then AAA. And then how do you think that Herbalife was able to build, because we have these 6 pillars, as I call them. How were they able to build? How did we do that to build up to $100 million a month back when that was never done before, okay? And then have all the force of the U.S. government, the FDA, attorney generals, everybody come after us and drive us to under $10 million a month. And how were we able to survive that? It's different today. People don't pay attention to it because it's a new cycle, and a half an hour later it's something new, and tomorrow they forget about it. It wasn't the same. That wasn't the way it was back then. Your name went in a newspaper, you appeared before the U.S. Senate, that was over. You were done. But we weren't. And because we built off of these concepts that I'm talking about, these fundamentals, these pillars I'm talking about. And as a result, we had a farm team. So when our big leaders had to leave us because they weren't making the money that they were making before, we had the A team, the AA, AAA, and we had some New York Yankees still left with us. We were able to build back up because of these things we're talking about. And we built it back up to another $1 billion a year pace. And then guess what happened, Tony? Mark and Larry went through an unbelievable, disastrous business divorce. And boom, here the thing went and, had to re-struggle again. And guess what? These fundamental principles that we're talking about, we're just a couple of them, rebuilt it again. And then guess what happened? Okay? Mark Hughes, my business partner, died at 42 years of age. Okay? But we had the A team, the AA, the AAA, and the New York Yankees throughout that whole, they just kept bringing them up. And you know what? It rebuilt again. Then the company sold twice after that, and it rebuilt again. $5 billion last year, 86 countries. My goodness. Number 3, how did they do it? There's reasons, man. There's reasons. There's how many companies do we have out there today? Let's just go back to the generation number 2 from 1990 to 2000. How many companies rose up here? And I hesitate. I don't think I can use names. because I'm fans of some of these guys, but in their companies. But how many Nonis, how many Monavides, how many Free Lives, how many Zengos, all significant companies, guys, significant, Tony, that were doing good stuff, that are irrelevant today. They had the sales, but they're irrelevant today, and I'm not being critical of them at all, okay? But all those companies that built up, and you see them as recent as Visalis, you know what I mean, building up. And I'm a fan of most of these companies. You got new kids on the block today, Nerium and stuff like that. And every time I see these companies go, I'm praying and hoping they're going to get it and stay around and become another Herbalife. That we need that stuff, okay? And that's going to happen. It's going to happen. But what happens here when these companies are so significant today in the network marketer's mind, and they're irrelevant 5 years later, 10 years later, 6 months later? They're irrelevant, okay? Because they don't understand these things we're talking about. This is what the original founders of the industry built upon. I am very, very blessed to have been involved in that generation and pass on. Anyway, I don't want to get on that. I'll get on a soapbox.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good subject, and I don't know how we can talk about it because, you know, what you're saying is true. You can look at the facts, and you can see where almost like a pet rock there, you know, they go up and go down, you know, and you see that over and over again with great people, great owners, great products, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that, and you go, how the heck does that happen? And it happens quite a bit, you know. So I agree with that, and I think just, you know, I don't think there's any easy way to try to explain or teach that.
I don't think you can. I don't know. I you know, because I don't fit anybody, but I certainly, you know, 'cause most of these companies, I'm pulling for them, Ben. I'm a cheerleader on the side for almost everybody. But you know, and people think that the results were financial. They think it was government, or they think it was product. Those are results. They're not the cause. The cause is they didn't have these fundamental principles that you build the dynasty on, like an Herbalife or an Amway. The fundamental principles are not there. By the way, they're different in Amway than they are in Herbalife as they are in Mary Kay. Conceptually, they're the same, but the specifics of those concepts are there, okay, in every one of those, and it isn't, I don't care how big your sales are, and I don't care how much money your people are making, okay. I mean, back when we got hit in 1985, they were making more money than God at that point. Nobody had ever made that kind of money in the industry. And I don't care how much money they're making. I don't care how high your sales are. I don't care, okay. You know what I mean when I don't care. I'm saying that's not the variable.
It's irrelevant.
The variable is the stuff we're talking about.
Well, you know, it's even just the you know, you're talking the farm team versus Rolodex. You know, and we've talked about that a lot.
Good term.
That's a great example of what we're seeing with these companies that go up and down. Is they're not developing leadership to the level that you learn early on in the first generation, and those fundamentals they're not preaching. The Rolodex mentality is not it. You know, and I can't wait to spend more time on that because I really think I see that as a challenge.
Yeah, listen, the big movement now in the last couple of years has been personal development for these companies. You got to get personal development. Personal development, people think of books and tapes and things like that, and that helps, okay? And it's all of this stuff, personal development. You got to have personal development. Let me tell you what personal development is. Anytime that you can create an environment and a process that helps someone increase their desire, their willingness, and teachability is personal development. Anytime you can create a process and an environment and a culture that increases someone's self-responsibility, determination, motivation, and self-functioning, you're there. That ain't coming from a book. That's coming from application by understanding and implementing. How are you going to put a personal development program in? I was just talking to a major corporate executive in a major billion-dollar-plus corporation. And he says, we've identified that there's got to be more personal development in our field today, okay? And I said, how are you going to do that, okay? And I outlined a few things, which is normal things that they would say. And I said, it's got to be part of the culture and it creates that involvement, that engagement, and that activity level, and let these people come around and start learning those things on their own, by taking that self-responsibility, self-determination, self-motivation. I said it's a culture. And everybody uses that word. It's our culture today. Hey, I have no clue what their culture. Have them define their culture. What is it? What is their culture? Okay, and so I'm not opposed to trainings, and I'm not opposed to seminars. My goodness, how can I be opposed to that? I do it. Okay, but I understand that unless you have this, as a part of your daily method of operation, not of how many books you read. Great, read them all. Not of how many tapes you and CDs you listen to all of them. And it isn't how many hot coals you walk on. God bless everybody, okay? I'm not talking about that. It's got to be part of the everyday conceptual concept of doing the business, not the technique, because that becomes the technique. And you got to remember, you say you got to read this many books, listen to this many tapes. 80, 15, and 5 is across the board for any technique. Personal growth is a technique when applied like that. Personal growth, when it's part of your culture of using, wearing, talking, and understanding these things, it's an automatic process. That's how a Larry Thompson, a long-haired hippie construction worker with no education, no self-confidence, no self-esteem, was able to do it. That's how Mark Hughes, my business partner, was able to do it. That's how Jeff Roberti, that's how Dave Bennett, that's how all of these guys, $1 Million, Dan McCormick, John Solid, that's how these guys were able to do it, okay? It wasn't how many books they read and how many seminars they went to. I'm not telling you that stuff is wrong. It isn't. I'm not telling you stuff doesn't help. That's not the key. Anyway, listen, man, we going to do the show today? I mean, we got so carried away here. We're going to need to schedule this for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, listen, I just didn't want to interrupt on that thought, but a key distinction there that I've been talking about recently is, and I realize this too, because personal development books you read, the leaders are readers, what you listen, all that is critically important. But it's like I realized it one day. When I was working out, I was like, I could go to a seminar every week. I could I could read 30 pages a day about how to work out. I could go through watching movies and documentaries like the one I sent you with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But how is my body going to change by doing that? Unless I apply. It's the activity knowledge. It's by doing. You learn by doing, not just by reading and listening, but by doing. And that's the reality of what you talk. It's the doing part of it. If personal growth happens, growth is when you're under pressure, when you're that diamond that gets compressed over thousands of years or millions of years, that becomes that amazing gem. Person has to apply themselves. So how can, if a personal trainer hired me, I should say I hired them, and they trained me, and they taught me all these great concepts and techniques about what to do, how to do it, how to live, how to eat, when not to eat. But if I didn't go to the gym, if I didn't pick up the weight, if I didn't focus on doing the thing, whatever the thing is, the DMO, whatever it is, the use, where, talk, if I didn't do the thing, I mean, what good is it going to do? I can be knowledgeable on it, but unless I'm doing it. So anyway, I mean, this is awesome.
Let me tell you something else with this. We always want to learn more. We always want to listen, learn, buy books, buy seminars, go to this. And I'm telling you, these seminars today out there are full. $99, $999, $5,000, they're full. Because any time that someone can spend money to go to learn to do something, to become a better person, a better salesman, a better husband, better wife, or whatever it may be, okay, they'll do it. You know why? Because when they're going there to learn, they don't have to do. They got to learn before they can do, okay? And anything that they can do except look in the mirror and boil it down, when you can boil it down to desire, willingness, and teachability, I can get started today. When I can boil it down to self-responsibility, determination, motivation, functioning, listen, go to the seminar, spend the money. But what are you going to be doing right now? You talked about the trainer, okay? There's only so many ways that you got to do you can only lift the weight so many ways, okay? There's not that many things to learn. Okay, and there's not that many. If you set it up on a concept basis versus a technique basis, and you set it up on desire, willingness, and teachability, and you set it up on the Four Selves, and you set it up on DMOs and some of the stuff we'll talk about on some of these future shows, they only have to learn a few things, and then it's called doing it. I can only lift the weight. So, now listen, I understand I can lift it like this. My first thing is get through it. My second thing is to get through it with more reps. My third thing is to get through it and go slow coming up and resist going down. My next thing is to do it and twist it a little bit here and there. Come on, Eric. Arnold does not know that much more about building the body than anybody that started 90 days ago. Might know a little bit more about diet, might know a little bit more about the muscle structure, and it's not the difference. Not the difference. The difference is the techniques versus the concepts. The difference is just get to the gym and go do something, as you're talking about, and just do it. The difference is desire, willingness, and teachability. The difference is taking responsibility, the determination and motivation to become functioning at the gym. That's the difference, not the technique. Maybe that's what we should, how to go about this deal.
Exactly. And, you know, and not every 80%er is willing to do squats, are they, Larry?
Yeah. Listen, man, I don't think that we're going to be able to do this show today because I apologize to you. You want to set this up tomorrow?
Yeah, you know, I think that would be fine. It gives me something to think about. I think everything we talked about is relevant. The only thing I would be a little concerned about maybe is the companies that we talked about. But you know, obviously we have a lot of owners. And
listen, man, I'm not saying anything out of school. I won't say that. I won't say that tomorrow. But you know, if I did, I'd clarify it. Because you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with these companies. You know, listen, I wore those shoes after we got hit with Herbalife for almost 7 years in the rebuilding stage. I understand it. Okay, we just had the foundation underneath us to come back with, and we had these things in place. So I understand it. I feel for that situation.
Yeah, most of the new companies could not go through what, in my opinion, what you guys went through in Herbalife.
Everybody will. Every marriage does. Every relationship does. Every company. They're going to have difficulties, man. Okay, and it's how you deal with those difficulties. And if you understand these things, you have the foundation to deal with it. Anyway, what time tomorrow should we try and do this? I apologize.
I would say, why don't we do it around 12?
Your time, my time.
My time. Yeah, you're an hour behind me. So why don't we do it around 12? I love it. Right. Your passion is unbelievable. Holy smokes! Your caption.
Yeah, well, we'll tone it down tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I'll have some kind of cohesiveness.
I don't think you tone it down at all. Are you kidding me? I think that's what people need to hear. I mean,
yeah, but you know how people are today, man. They wanted to be Oprah and Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil and pat it on the popo instead of, you know, the generation I come from. You know, you don't do it, you don't get it, okay? And
I don't know what you went through in the Middle East there, but I'll tell you what, you are like, I mean, driven and passionate.
Well, listen, that was a great experience, and we'll go through that because anyway, I'm gonna get cooking here. I gotta, you know. Golly, it's 1:30 here. There's a volleyball tournament starting up with the girls. All right, so appreciate it. And if that works for you tomorrow, and we're looking at maybe an hour.
Yeah, I'd say an hour.
Maybe 15, 20 minutes ahead of time to get set up and do that.
Yep. Okay. Go ahead and do that. It's always a pleasure, my friend. I love it. I love it. I love it. One of the
all right.
Working with elders.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Have a great day.
All right, man. We'll see if we can't do it tomorrow. Adios.
Adios.